Nintendo is known for having franchises that have been going on for years now. So when they decided to make a brand new IP, it definitely caught my attention. I mean, the last new IPs that Nintendo had were Pikmin and Animal Crossing, and that was back on the GameCube. And so, we have Splatoon, a third-person 4-on-4 online multiplayer shooter, something that Nintendo hasn't really done before. So because of this, people may be wondering, is it any good? Well, of course it's good, it's fucking Nintendo. I mean, what do you expect? However, the question I have for you guys is, are you a squid, or are you a kid? My god, was that a terrible commercial. But I love it anyways. Also, I'd like to point out that this is my first review, so don't expect anything amazing. But yeah, Splatoon, let's go. When you start off Splatoon, you will be asked to create your character, which pretty much just comes down to choosing a gender and picking your skin and eye color. Personally, I would have liked a little more customization options, but oh well. I would like to add, though, that the female character is really cute. And I was very close to actually making one, but I ended up picking the male character anyways. After that, you are led to an announcement where Callie and Mary, two squid celebrities, reveal what maps are currently available to play on, as well as what updates were recently added. Maps are rotated every 4 hours, and there are quite a bit of maps to play on in fact, with 14 at the moment, so there is quite a bit of variety in this game. Once the announcement is over, you are thrown into the main hub area known as Inkopolis. Now, despite this game focusing heavily on its online mode, there is actually a single player mode. And I will say right now, that it is surprisingly good, though because it is the less important part of the game, I will be going over it first. In order to play single player, go over to the drain that is marked as Octo Valley. There, you will meet an old Inkling named Captain Cuttlefish. He will tell you that the Octarians, creatures that have waged war with the Inklings years ago, have stolen the Zapfish, Inkopolis' main power supply, and it is up to you to get it back. And so, after being dubbed Agent 3 and acquiring a hero suit, you set out to get the Zapfish back. The plot is fairly simple, but that's fine with a game that is focused on its online mode. There is some interesting backstory, however, but we'll go over that in a bit. There are 5 worlds to go through, with 27 levels and 5 boss fights in total. I gotta admit, that's a lot more than I expected at first. As for the gameplay, it plays like a 3D platformer with each level having sections that you must complete. They may have you solve a puzzle, kill enemies, or traverse the landscape. It can be compared to Super Mario Galaxy in that regard, as it shares a lot of elements with it, such as this. Man, that's cool every time. You are equipped with a shooter weapon, one of the 3 main weapon types in Splatoon. A shooter is essentially a rapid-fire weapon that shoots ink. And ink is easily Splatoon's major aspect of its gameplay. You see, the entire game consists of shooting ink everywhere, whether it's on the floor or up the walls. Your ink will be a specific color, while your enemies will have a different one. You can transform into a squid to move through your ink really fast, as well as climb up walls and remain hidden. If you go into the enemy's ink, you will move very slow and take damage. You can kill enemies by shooting them with your own ink, and you can refill your weapons by transforming into a squid and going into one of the ink spots that you shot somewhere. You also have sub-weapons such as bombs, which are great for range. Now what's really cool about single player is that it'll teach you how to play the game, which will allow you to do good on online mode since it plays exactly like it. So because of this, I would recommend you play single player first, as not only is it a lot of fun, but it'll also teach you everything you need to know about the game. A prime example of this are the last 2 levels in World 2 to 5, in where one of them you fight a bunch of Octarians in one of the online maps. This will give you a feel on how to traverse the maps, as well as kill other players. These are also my favorite levels in single player mode, as it is decently challenging, and hey, it's always fun to kill some enemies. The other level is where you traverse one of the online maps, while avoiding an ink strike, one of the special weapons in online mode. This will help you learn how to deal with special weapons, though the only difference is that the ink strike constantly comes in this mode, while in online mode you only have one use, so it won't come as often. The levels have some interesting level design and obstacles to go through, such as these sponges that will inflate if you shoot ink in them, but will deflate when the enemy shoots their ink into them. There are definitely moments where some of the levels were legitimately challenging, and I appreciate that. Speaking of challenging, something that is challenging are the sunken scrolls. The sunken scrolls are collectibles found in each level and boss fight, and can be rather hard to find. However, as long as you look out for them, you should be fine. I mean, other than a couple of levels where I had to replay them to find the scroll, I normally found each one on my first time through. Though that was due to me constantly looking out for them, but still. And I will say that some of the locations of the scrolls are rather clever and are hidden very well. So I gotta give them props for that.
Now remember when I said there was some interesting backstory to this game? Well, that's where the sunken scrolls come in.
You see, each scroll contains some backstory to this game, whether it was on the war that happened between the Inklings and the Octarians, or even a flood that wiped out all human life, and how the Inkling civilization came to be. This is some dark shit right here, and I love it. I'm someone who absolutely loves lore in video games, so something like this really gets me off. The scrolls that you get from boss fights, however, will give you new weapons, and some of these weapons are actually really good, and I would recommend playing single player just to get them. Especially since you can start off online mode with amazing weapons as opposed to not so great ones. The sunken scrolls were definitely my favorite part about single player, if only for the backstory alone. There are some other ones that I really enjoyed, but I'll let you discover them for yourself. The boss fights are pretty standard though, with the typical 3 hits and they're dead thing going on. However, some of them do change it up, and some of their final stages did give me some trouble.
However, something I do have to bring up is the final boss. Now of course I'm not going to show any footage of it because it is considered spoilers, but I will say that it is one of the best final bosses I have ever faced. It was challenging, decently long, combined everything that you learned thus far, and he was a freaking DJ. I mean, how more awesome can you get? Also, the music during the final boss fight was kick-ass, and was by far one of my favorite tracks in the entire game, so that's a plus. Hell, it took me 3 tries just to beat him, whereas every other boss took me 1 try, so that should say something.
A little nitpick that I have, however, is how long it takes to find every level in the world, as you have to find the kettle that leads to each level by shooting it with ink, but they are invisible and very hard to find. There are times where it took me a good 10 minutes just to find all of the levels in the world, and in my opinion, that shouldn't be a thing. But like I said, that's just a nitpick.
Overall, single player is a surprisingly solid mode, but I will say that single player alone isn't enough to buy Splatoon. And I'm talking about those people who can't play online mode and are wondering if they should buy this game just for the single player. I mean, if you think 27 levels and 5 boss fights with a hidden collectible in each one is worth it to buy this game, then go right ahead. But for me personally, for $60, single player would need a little bit more for me to actually buy the game if that was the only mode that I was going to play. Like I said, this game focused heavily on its online mode, so if you want to get the full experience, you're going to have to play online mode. Though with that said, single player is a great mode to play through, and it really teaches you how to play the game. But now, we get into Splatoon's online portion.
In the main lobby, you can do a few things, like go shopping. You can buy weapons, as well as hats, shirts, and shoes to customize your character. These aren't just for looks though, as they actually have stats that can affect how you do in battle. Personally, I quite like the button-down shirts, as I'm quite fond of them.
Can you tell?
Sadly, you can't get any good stuff starting off, and that includes weapons, but just know that they are here for now. Speaking of weapons, there are 3 main weapon types. A shooter, which you already know about from single player, a charger, which is a long-range weapon that you use to snipe enemies, and a roller, which is a melee weapon that can kill pretty easily up close and is able to cover the area with ink the best. There are 2 other weapon types that are introduced later as DLC, which are the slosher and the splatling. So as you can see, there are quite a bit of playstyles to choose from. My personal favorite weapon is the .52 Gal Deco, a strong shooter weapon with a decent rapid fire rate along with my favorite sub-weapon, the Seeker. You don't know how many people I have killed with this weapon. There are times where I just went on a rampage killing everyone, and it was awesome. There are some other stuff that you can do in the main lobby, such as talking to other players and requesting some of their equipment if you like them. You can then talk to Spike, a shady guy in the corner, to get it for you. You what, mate? You can also get him to change up your stats on your equipment when you hit a certain level, which is rather nice. But now it's time for the main event, the online mode. Starting off, you'll only be allowed to play regular battle, which contains turf war. Once you reach level 10, you can play ranked battle, which contains splat zones, tower control, and rainmaker. There is even a mode to play with your friends, though there's no voice chat, so be wary of that.
Now this is where I would explain these modes while showing footage of them. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, I can't record online gameplay on my Wii U. I apologize for this, but as I'm explaining these modes, you're going to be seeing my face as I do so. This is the only way I can do this, so please bear with me. Now, each mode will put you on a team with 3 other players, and you will face off against a team of 4, hence this being a 4-on-4 online multiplayer shooter. Turf War is all about spraying ink all over the map. The team who covered the most ink on the map wins. Each team starts on one side of the map and makes their way to the center and eventually to the other side. Along the way, you should be killing other players, as not only does it stop their progress, but when you kill an enemy, they will explode your ink everywhere, which obviously helps you. However, and I want to stress this, killing other players is the main objective here. Of course, it helps to do that, but make sure you're doing the objective at hand, which in this case is spraying ink all over the map. Teamwork is extremely important in this game, and if your teammates fuck up, no matter how good you do, your team will lose. It's very frustrating when you're doing so good, but then your team holds you back, which has happened to me so many times. Overall, this is a great beginning mode, as it is a lot of fun, it isn't too challenging, and it will get you hooked on the game. I will say though, that once I reach level 10 and unlock Ranked Battle, I haven't even touched this mode. Which isn't a bad thing, mind you. It's just that Ranked Battle is so good, and it's all I want to play. And with that, we have Ranked Battle. In Ranked Battle, you have a rank that starts at C- and goes all the way up to S+. When you win battles, your rank goes up. When you lose battles, your rank goes down. I will say though, that it is extremely hard to go up in rankings. I mean, I'm always stuck at the B ranking myself. This is a much more competitive mode, and I love that. The first mode in Ranked Battle is Splat Zones, which was originally the only mode in Ranked Battle. Splat Zones is essentially 2 teams fighting for one small section on the map. If you cover it with ink for 100 seconds, you win. You can also win if the time runs out and your team covered the zone with ink the longest. If you play other shooters, it's basically King of the Hill mode. This is my personal favorite mode, as it can get quite hectic, and as I've said, it is very competitive. There are times where I go on a massacre and kill 10 enemies in a row trying to protect my zone. It's awesome! The other 2 modes, Tower Control and Rainmaker, were added later as free DLC. I'll explain the whole DLC thing in a few, don't worry. Tower Control is where you take control of a tower and have to get it across to the other team's base. If you make it all the way to their base with the tower, you win. You can also win if the time runs out and your team moves the tower the furthest distance. This mode is pretty damn challenging, as all 4 players can shoot the one player on the tower. Hell, there are times where the tower doesn't move at all, because every single player is killing each other trying to get on the tower. You need to have a strategy, and that's what I love about this mode. The final mode, Rainmaker, is where you take control of the Rainmaker and carry it to the enemy's base. While holding the Rainmaker, you move very slow, but you can fire charged shots at other players. If you manage to reach the enemy's base with the Rainmaker, you win. You can also win if the time runs out and your team carry the Rainmaker the closest to the enemy base. This mode isn't as good as the other 2 modes in my opinion, but it's still fun. You just have to make sure that your teammates cover you when you have the Rainmaker, which isn't always the case. Ranked Battle is the mode that I love the most in Splatoon, and is the reason why I love this game so much. Online mode is a blast to play, and I can see myself playing this game for years to come. One thing I have to talk about is the soundtrack. Words cannot begin to describe how amazing it is. I would even go as far as to say that it's one of my favorite gaming soundtracks of all time. I mean, just listen to this song. Ugh, orgasmic.
The Squid Sisters, Callie and Mary, sang the song that you just heard, along with a few others. And can I just say that I love these 2? They have bubbly personalities, are really cute, and sing great songs. I mean, what's not to love about them? Also, Callie's best girl, just saying.
The graphics are also rather nice to look at. The colors pop really well, and you can see exactly what you're doing. Some of the backgrounds are also done really well, an example being in one of the levels where you can see an entire city in the distance. It's nice, and it does its job well. Now, I have mentioned free DLC a few times in this review. Well, when Splatoon first got released, it barely had any content. But as time went on, we got free DLC little by little until the game became the way it is now. Some of the more major DLCs were, and allow me to look at this for a second because it's quite a lot, weapons and clothing, the Slosher and Splatling weapon classes, new maps, the Tower Control and Rainmaker modes, and the level cap increasing from 20 to 50. And new content is still being released today. It's crazy. This is the perfect time to buy Splatoon, as it has a lot of content at the moment and will continue to do so in the near future. Overall, Splatoon is a fantastic game, with a decent story mode, a great soundtrack, and an amazing online mode. This is not only one of the best games for the Wii U, but one of the best games of 2015, period. If you have a Wii U and don't have this game yet, go out and buy it immediately. You will not regret it, trust me. And with that, my first review is done. I would like all of your input on this video, as this is very much a work in progress, and I would like to improve based on said input. I'm planning on doing reviews for this channel for a while, so it would be appreciated. And with that, I've been JeremyTechno, and I'll see you guys in my next video. See you guys then.